really sad ending, honestly. Like, he doesn't get the girl, he doesn't go back to the kingdom, he just moves on. This is a series about growing up, and growing up is about defining yourself and making your own decisions. So Fitz, our main character, starts at age 6, and then by the end of the series is like early mid-20s. He is the illegitimate son of the Crown Prince, Chivalry. Though Fitz lacks a good support network, he has an overabundance of mentor figures. Growing up is about defining yourself. It's about learning how to be yourself and learning who that is. But Fitz is very loyal, and he has all these different, very kind adults telling him what to do and how he should be, and it stunts his decision-making growth, which he realizes later when he's off on his own and really struggles to find a direction in life. And Fitz's journey of becoming an assassin and learning really what that means is super interesting to look over the entire trilogy at. So first, when Fitz is young, Fitz is ordered to kill someone, or many someones. And for the most part, Fitz finds a better way. So this is through his teen years. As he's sent on various assassin missions, he often finds a way that doesn't end up killing the person he was meant to assassinate. However, at the end of book 2, Fitz is down in the dumps, left for dead. Regal, his uncle, has usurped the throne. Fitz decides, I am going to kill Regal. This is a big deal because Fitz's whole life, instead of making his own decisions, it's just been be loyal to your mentor figure. Do what they say. They have a better idea of what you should do than you do. So he goes off on a very long quest with lots of traveling, finally gets to Regal's stronghold and utterly fails at killing him. So, turns out, not that good of an assassin. And it's like, well, how do I define myself now? And when he's out on his quest, he gets the order from Queen Kettrikin to kill Regal. So he's back to where he was. And then at the very end, he has Regal in his clutches. He's ready to kill this person who has wronged him so bad. But Fitz returns to the decisions of his youth and finds a better way instead. And I really enjoyed this end to the series where Regal really had it coming, but Fitz decided he wasn't going to be the assassin. It's part of him moving on from his old life is deciding not to kill Regal. So in this way, Fitz is leaving behind his turbulent teenage years in the court, being an assassin, being under Regal, and moving on is such a big deal for Fitz because that's the other big thing that this series is about. It's about abandonment. At one point in the series, Fitz is chatting with Chade, and Chade says, most prisons are of our own making. A man makes his own freedom, too. And here, in the end, is Fitz making his own freedom, instead of making a bigger prison. He's deciding to leave it behind, even though it's something that he wants, even though it's something that his mentor figure told him to do. This is him deciding to be something different, to be someone else, to be himself, and not the person that everyone expects him to be. Because Fitz has been abandoned and left behind over and over and over and over and over. And it's so sad, which brings us to the next cycle of beautifulness that gets subverted in the end. Fitz is left behind. Moving on to step 2, Fitz is sad and mopes about being left behind, which happens pretty much every time. However, Fitz being sad about being left behind doesn't lead him to get character development. It usually just means Fitz is even worse at making good relationships, because understandably all of this getting left behind and abandonment and losing his friends built some pretty big trust issues where he doesn't want to tell someone a secret in case that'll be the thing that makes them leave, which is of course making bad relationships that makes people leave. So, which goes right back to people leaving Fitz behind. You can see this best in Molly, that because Fitz has had all these trust issues, because he doesn't want to tell her all of these dark secrets about himself, because he has all these secrets, because he is compartmentalizing his life, Molly leaves him because she's sick of him not being truthful with her. What gives Fitz finally enough wisdom to break out of this cycle is when Night Eyes, his wolf buddy, leaves him. Night Eyes and Fitz have been like best buddies, sharing a mind space, they communicate telepathically, like, it is friendship goals. But at one point, Night Eyes is like, you know, I kind of want to go join my own wolf pack, because being a lone wolf, not the funnest. And Fitz is like, oh no, my wolf buddy. And Fitz is real sad, and then Fitz realizes, like, wait a minute, this is how Night Eyes has always felt when I've gone off with the humans and left him behind. Him seeing that he's also been doing this abandoning to other people finally gives him a little bit more perspective on this, that he values friendships a little bit more because he realizes that how easy it is to lose that kind of friendship trust. And then, at the very end, Fitz has a decision. He can go chasing off after his lost love, Molly, or he can move on, and chooses not to get the girl. It's a really sad ending, honestly. Like, he doesn't get the girl, he doesn't go back to the kingdom, he just moves on. But in that moving on, he's making a choice about what kind of person he's going to be. He's going to be the person that can build a new life for himself. I think this idea of Fitz being able to grow up and move on is best seen in the end when he's talking about a map that he's inherited from Verity. This map is slightly unfinished, and Fitz knows that he has the skill, he has the know-how to finish this map for Verity, to make it complete, but instead he just hangs it up as is, slightly not yet done. Fitz is deciding that he doesn't have to be the big hero anymore. This is where Fitz is deciding that it's okay for him to not finish Verity's work. Verity's literal map work, but then also Verity's work in the kingdom. In Fitz's world where he's grown up with all of these political expectations riding on him, this is Fitz deciding to move on from that. To move on from Buckkeep, to move on from Molly, to move on from Burrich, to move on from everything, and just have a peaceful life to himself. So I really liked the ending. I think it's definitely a controversial ending because Fitz doesn't get the girl. Fitz doesn't save the day. And he doesn't do that because he chooses not to do that. It's like, he could have killed Regal, but he decides to move on. He decides to get out of this cycle of sadness and abandonment and move on. And I think him moving on is an act of trust. It's the thing that he's been struggling with the entire series, because it's trusting that things will work out and people will be happy without him. It's trusting that people don't always need the chosen one to rush in and save the day. So, other things that I thought were well done in this book. The first person narration was done skillfully. It was such a light touch of foreshadowing. Sometimes, a lot of times, the reader can figure out the mystery before Fitz, the narrator, does. And that's hard to do in first person because everything we get is through Fitz's lens. So how would we figure something out before he does if he's the one who's giving us all the information? Well, Fitz has some big blind spots, and I think it's really skillfully done with the little foreshadowing that you can piece together and say, oh, the fool is being skilled! You can figure it out before Fitz does, and that's something that's hard to pull off with first person. Okay, things that I didn't like. The lack of plot sometimes. Like, I really did enjoy that there was so much character work here. But because Fitz is often a pretty passive narrator and doesn't really make big decisions, he's just doing what people said because he's loyal. Okay, Fitz, I guess you're still loyal. But because often these plot points and consequences are just kind of happening to Fitz and Fitz isn't doing anything and then there's not much plot anyway, sometimes it's like, what's going on in this book anyway? So, what do you think about these books? What do you think about the Farseer Trilogy by Rob and Hobb? What do you like about this series? What do you not like?